Hello, my friends. We're going to talk about this full moon that's happening in Sagittarius, the Archer. It's happening on May 31st, 2026, and it rises in the company of Black Moon Lilith in the element of fire. And together they illuminate the part of you that remains untamed. So this is a moon that is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter right now is exalted in Cancer and in the sign of the moon. So they are in mutual reception, which means that they are supporting each other. The moon and Jupiter are resourcing one another, and that means vision, truth, philosophy. You know I love etymology. Philosophy, philo, love, Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. So a love of wisdom, and that wisdom coming from our most feral self, our body, our animal body. So we are being asked or invited to listen to a truth that, again, it's the element of fire that's coming in through our intuition, and that is maybe has been simmering a long time and is trying to break through. And it can feel like a storm. It can feel like something, again, wild, undomesticated, even difficult, or might challenge our status quo, that is trying to come through right now. And also very magical, very expansive, very freeing. Sagittarius wants to be free. Sag wants to move outside of the comfort zone and explore new territory. So there's this kind of feeling, energy of this full moon that's like this bursting forth and this invitation for adventure. Now, it is grounded by Saturn and Pluto, so the wildness has a structure. It has bones. It has roots and a spine. It's not just this chaos coming in. It has gravitas. It has weight to it. And it has support of these kind of heavy hitters, Saturn and Pluto. So they are kind of the quality control. Pluto's the adjudicator, the balancer. And Saturn is quality control. Does this pass the test? But we have to kind of let it be what it is first and really feel like the truth of what is present and allow it to unfold and allow it to show itself. Allow for the heat, and we are feeling for where the heat is. I got that term from Daniel Dulski, who is a writer, and I now teach that to my students and the people who participate in the immersions that I offer a few times a year, to find where the heat is and write from that place. Journal like you can kind of free write, and then go back and look at what you wrote and find where the heat is. And that's where your truth is. For those of you who have been wanting to work with me, there is a window open now for 22% off of all readings. So if you've been wanting to try a reading with me, or you are due for a transit reading, which tells you about what's coming in, which of the gods, which of the archetypes are currently visiting, what's the current lesson plan, why is this happening to me, and for how long, that's a great reading for you. Or if your birthday's coming up, a solar return reading tells you all about your year ahead and what the characteristics and flavor and shape of that year is going to be. And then also your natal reading, which is the place where we start. Who are you? What might it articulate to you that could help you locate something that maybe you haven't articulated for yourself, or you're just sort of sense into, but it's sort of a portrait of you. That's until Sunday. You use the discount code FAIRYTREE at aprilsastrology.com. So for this full moon, the sun is in Gemini, which is an air sign. And Gemini is curious, ruled by Mercury. Gemini wants the information. And of course, the moon is in Sagittarius, and they face off across the sky in exact opposition, and they behold one another. And this is a culmination of energies, especially emotional energies, And this is the axis of the mind, Gemini, and meaning, Sagittarius. So Gemini gathers facts, information, and is kind of like a butterfly that moves from flower to flower, and sort of brings things, networks and brings information from one place to another. But Sagittarius asks what it all means, right? So Gemini knows 1,000 things. Sag wants the one truth that makes the 1,000 things matter and have meaning, and wants to gather it into wisdom rather than information. So there's a question being asked, and it's one that the rational mind alone can't answer. And it's, what do you know? And how do you come about that knowing? Where does your wisdom live? What do you know in your body? Sagittarius is the animal that carries the philosopher. So Sag is half human, half horse. But even our humanness is animal. So we're not separate from the rest of the world. We're not separate from nature. We are nature, right? And everything we do is nature. The human mind is also nature. Sagittarius is also about divinity and how we relate to the idea of God and what God is. And this full moon may say that God is in our naturalness. God is in everything. So Sag is often thought about as the lucky one, the optimist, the traveler, but there's something older and sort of less tame about Sagittarius in the centaur. This is the part of the psyche that belongs to open country, that requires the horizon, and that goes feral in captivity, that can't tolerate smallness, right? And again, ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, which is the moon's sign, this is emotional. So anywhere we've been kind of contracting and trying to fit into something that just doesn't fit us anymore, that makes our lives boring, or where we feel unalive, right? Where we feel dead, like there's something that's just not, it's not on fire, there is no heat, I don't even know what I want, that kind of thing. This full moon is illuminating that and showing us where we need more freedom, we need more room to breathe, we need to answer to, again, our animal self. I think of the Mary Oliver poem, Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Sagittarius is also the truth teller. The one who says the thing in the room that everyone's thinking, but no one else is going to say. And it's not just to provoke, although Sag might like doing that, but because something in Sagittarian energy, which we all have in our chart somewhere, and you can find out where that is, and you'll know then where this full moon is. It just can't, Sag energy just can't perform a falsehood for the sake of politeness. It just isn't in the nature of the Sag. So the arrow doesn't curve to spare feelings. It goes where it's aimed. And so it's that undomesticated knowing, the wisdom that doesn't come from books, but from having run through the wild country and having, coming back with, mud on your pants and your shoes and something true to report. So on this full moon, that part of you is illuminated, and it's keeping powerful company with Black Moon Lilith, who's also in Sagittarius, and this is the heart of this lunation. It's very potent. She's not just rebellion, she's older than rebellion. She's the animating wild. She's the raw vitality that lives in you before culture changes you. I often think of Lilith, we think of her in this very sort of dark, threatening way. But I also think of Lilith as the look in a very young baby's eyes. that innocence, that part of us that is spoken about in the Sufi tradition, the part of you that is there, that's, that's never born, never dies, is just your essence. It's your soul. That's what anima means. It means the soul. And Carl Jung, the psychologist and mystic, called Lilith the shamanistic anima, which means that she's a guide into our soul retrieval, into the places where we may have left soul behind in our past because of trauma, because we've had to contort ourselves to meet someone else's truth. And now there's a call to retrieve those parts of our soul. And really, our souls can't be divided up that way anyhow. So we're listening in for our soul and what our soul is yearning for and what our soul is calling us toward, where there's heat, where there's desire, where there's truth. Lilith was there in you before you learned what you were supposed to be. The part that left the garden, not out of defiance, but out of an absolute unbreakable fidelity to her own nature. So in Sag, Lilith is feral with truth. She's the wild knowing that refuses to be made okay for everyone and doesn't translate herself into a language that keeps other people comfortable necessarily. So she's not so interested in being understood. Her goal is truth that is felt. At this moon, the body and our emotional life and our deep instincts, they are meeting. And the undomesticated feminine, which we all have a relationship to, inner and outer, is wanting to emerge, and in this kind of fiery way, because it's a fire element moon. So she stands also in opposition to the Gemini sun, and Gemini can be the daylight mind, again, that butterfly that's in the sun, wanting to stay on the surface of life and stay, logical and sort of stay above emotion and think moth to a flame, right? What happens to the moth? It doesn't go well for the moth. So there's a reason that kind of delicate winged creature might not want that. But there's also something about our, why is the moth drawn to the flame? There is something there that is important. Again, there's something our soul is drawn toward, and it's not necessarily destructive. It's not going to burn us alive, right? It's going to maybe burn what is holding us back or what is too superficial and just not aligned. And what gives us alignment, again, is the supportive aspects to Saturn and to Pluto. So Saturn in Aries creates a trine, and this gives the wildness spine. It gives a structure that can hold it rather than suppress it. So it gives it containment, so it's not just, that can be the fear, is that it's going to expand and get out of control. It's going to become a wildfire that will be destructive. But Saturn's here saying, we can hold this. We can still have discernment. We can still be looking at the long game. And in fact, that's really important. Jupiter also, the ruler of this lunation, is far-seeing. So this is about the long game. So this is about that wild nature in service to your long game vision, right? And that it's going to activate it. It's going to fuel it. Whereas you could lose energy if you continue to go in a direction that's too small and that's too contracted and too careful. So Pluto also is in positive aspect or supportive, harmonious aspect. And this gives depth. This gives underworld roots and gravity and transformation that's not ungrounded. It's in the root system. right? And Pluto's the underworld of the unconscious, the subconscious, and all that shadow element that is also wealth, where we have riches that we need to tap into, and that can also be suppressed, right? Sometimes it's our strengths, not just our weaknesses that we suppress. It's our strengths. And sometimes they can be really central to who we are, and then we can lose our way. And this Sag moon is trying to illuminate this path forward in the wilderness where you're to go on a journey. So the gift of this moon is the undomesticated nature is illuminated and lit up and grounded at once. It is also contained. It has structure. So there's another piece to this that's really important that we definitely don't want to overlook, and that's Chiron is at the last degrees of Aries. So this is the anaretic degree, the very last degree of the sign, and there's this mastery piece to that degree. It's been in Aries for years, Chiron, and this is the closing or the beginning of a closing to a long chapter. Chiron will go back into Aries briefly, but it's getting wrapped up now, and Chiron's going to be moving forward into Taurus. So this is the final breath of a wound that we've been working with for a long time around identity, the self, the right to exist and to act and take up space, and your fire that's yours by nature. And for years, this wound has been working in the collective and in each of us, and we've been working with it because Chiron's the wounded healer, not just the wound, but also the medicine. So the medicine is in our I amness, in our essential nature, in the look that we had in our eyes when we were babies, before we were altered, right? And that's our essential nature. And so Chiron is about to cross into new territory. So there's this completing in this way. As Chiron is making this move, he's in a very tight aspect to Mercury, and it's a sextile, so it's a harmonious aspect. And so there's a need to speak the wound and the medicine, to give it language. And this matters alongside the Lilith Moon conjunction, because both are pointing at the same thing from different directions. Something true and essential is asking to be spoken. The wild knowing of Lilith, the wounded wisdom of Chiron, also a centaur, our true nature, both refusing on the full moon night to stay silent. So what has been wordless in you may find its voice on this moon. Chiron will be moving into Taurus, and we can talk about that soon in more depth. And if you would like a video on that, please let me know in the comments. I'd be glad to make one really going into that, because it's a big deal. And there's a very beautiful piece that is building here with the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, who's in Cancer, again in mutual reception with the moon, just briefly. And this is Venus applying to a conjunction with Jupiter that will perfect on June 9th. In traditional astrology, they're both considered to be benefics. So when they meet, we have this grand blessing. And in Cancer, Jupiter's exalted, so it's emotional, and it has to do with wishes fulfilled. I think of the 9 of Cups in the tarot, where that's the card of wishes fulfilled. So we want to be thinking about and feeling into what is the wish. And again, that theme of desire and our true soul wish. What really animates us, and how might we want to be fulfilled? So they align in the sign that has to do with the heart. It's the water element, the deep waters of feeling and belonging, beauty, meaning, expansion. tenderness meeting abundance. I think of Tara Brach, and she talks about the survival of the nurtured. And we've all heard of the survival of the fittest, the Victorian Darwinian notion that the strongest are the ones who survive, the ones who dominate. But it's been shown many times over now that that's not the only thing that matters. Nurture matters. And we know from studies that have been done on infant primates that when they are given food but are deprived of love and holding and attention, that they wither. But when they are given love and holding and belonging, yet not food, they tend to hang on and survive it. So that tells us something really important about nurturance, that it's not just about resources in terms of physical resources, it's also emotional. So this full moon invites us to expand our capacity to be nourished, to be held, to receive more, maybe more than you thought was allowed. And the grace note beneath this wild moon is this reminder that the undomesticated nature is not at war with tenderness. The wild thing also needs to be loved and fed and come home to warmth at the end of the long run through the open country. If you have Aries Rising, the full moon falls in your 9th house. And this is the house that corresponds with Jupiter and Sagittarius. It's belief and philosophy and the open country of meaning, the horizon you aim toward. And this makes this full moon especially potent for you. So your strength is the courage to move first, act on instinct, and to go where others hesitate. And the shadow is the Aries. You can sometimes get caught up in the adrenaline of things and really become a true believer really fast and, chase the next horizon because the movement feels like aliveness. What becomes wisdom is slower, right? And Lilith in this house is asking for a wildness that is rooted. So the open country is yours tonight, says the moon. The wild knowing in you is illuminated. The truth doesn't always require a new horizon, and I'm asking you to trust what you already know. Your instincts are excellent. If you have Taurus Rising, the full moon lights up your 8th house, and this is intimacy, shared resources, transformation. It's the doorway into the underworld where mystery lives, and this is where what is released completes a cycle. And so your strength as a Taurus person is steadiness and your ability to stay present with what is embodied, and your shadow is that Taurus can hold so tightly to what feels secure that the wild and transformative truth can maybe feel a bit threatening, that we're not, Tauruses, and I'm a Taurus myself, not always so keen on big changes, right? Changes that move fast. But yet, in the 8th house, change is where the wealth is, and your sign is about wealth, right? And about what matters and what has value. So Lilith in the 8th house, she has an invitation. She's beckoning you toward what is feral and what isn't easily managed so that there can be movement. So the moon says to you, the depths are where the illumination is, and the wild thing in you knows what is true about your closest connections, about what's shared, what's owed, and what's being asked to change, about the real deepest feelings that you have. You don't have to hold everything steady. Some things need to change, need to move right now, need to transform so you can feel your aliveness. Let the wild knowing show you what that is. If you have Gemini Rising, the full moon is in your 7th house, and the 7th house is the mirror, it's the significant other, it's partnership, and it's the house of marriage. So this can be your spouse, but any kind of one-on-one relationship. The moon is sitting directly opposite your sign, making this especially charged and potent for you. So your strength is your agility, your curiosity, your ability to hold many perspectives at once. You are the social butterfly, and you are adept at ideas and communication. And the shadow, everybody has a shadow, is that Gemini Rising can talk around the wild truth that a relationship is showing you, and sort of explaining, analyzing, doing a PowerPoint on it, right? Holding all the angles, rather than maybe letting yourself simply feel. Just feeling what your body already knows, and really receiving the wisdom that's there. So Lilith in the 7th house, she is wanting you to really own what doesn't make sense and have it be okay. And luckily, you are very good at holding multiple truths at the same time. The things that contradict your contraries. And this is one of your strengths. So the moon says to you, the one across from you is showing you something tonight. And your wild knowing has already received it, long before your mind can build the case. You don't have to understand it perfectly to honor it. Trust the truth your body felt first. If you have Cancer Rising, the full moon lights up your 6th house, which is your daily life, the rhythms of your day, your daily practices, your rituals, just the way you run your life day to day, moment to moment, and all of those details that happen in your 6th house make up the totality of your life as a whole. Your superpower is your deep attunement to what others need, and your gift for creating care, nurturance, and nourishment. The shadow sides of Cancer have to do with overgiving, focusing on the needs of others, and then also wanting to stay really close to home and maybe not wanting so much to go out on adventures the way that this moon might be calling you forth. But Jupiter is in your sign and asking for expansion, and this is in the emotional realm where you excel, where you are a master. So the moon has a message for you. The wild thing that is illuminated tonight is the animal of your own body, the one that has maybe been carrying a lot for others. It has needs that are not negotiable. Listen to what it is telling you in the texture of your ordinary day. You are allowed to be the creature you're tending as well. If you have Leo Rising, the moon lights up your 5th house. So creativity, pleasure, desire, and risk-taking, what you make that is yours and that comes from your essence, your inner child, and what you create. So it's your creativity. And Lilith is in this house as well as the moon, which makes this a very wild and generative full moon for you in your element, in fire. So your strength is your radiance, your natural creative fire, your capacity to be fully, vividly alive. And there's always a shadow, but remember, the shadow is where a lot of the riches are as well, and the wound and the medicine. And this is where, Leo Rising Leo sun, Leo moon can want the creative act to be witnessed, admired, applauded, and the truly wild expression, the one that really comes from a place that isn't audience-based, can feel pointless without the gaze. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't care about audience. Sometimes Leo is lit up by audience and can be encouraged by it, but it becomes hollow when that's like the only motivator. So Lilith makes things for herself from that place of authenticity and also from mystery, so that when you perform, it's performing something that is magical and that feels very alive. So the moon says, what wants to come through you tonight is wild, and it is truly yours for the pleasure of making, just for the creative act. The most untamed creation is the one you make for yourself, and that comes from your soul and from your heart, from your essence. Let yourself have that. It's the truest fire you carry. If you have Virgo rising, the full moon lights up your 4th house, which is home, root, the private interior, the foundation, and the root system. And your strength is your discernment, your care, your attention to detail, your ability to put things in right order. Virgos, you're the apothecary keepers, you are the record keepers, you are the people who, know, again, all the details. The shadow, there's always a shadow, it's where the wealth is that Virgo rising can keep even the inner home so tidy and managed that the wild, untamed truth living at the root never gets to speak and is improved and organized before it's simply felt. And Lilith at your foundation, she won't be tidied. She can't sustain that, and it will cause you to wither. The moon's message for you is at the root of you tonight. Something wild and true is stirring about where you come from, about what home really is, some sort of wild lineage in your ancestry may be wanting to speak to you, the wild feminine in your ancestors, in your family tree, and something that maybe it's messy to feel is stirring. So you do not have to fix it. You only have to let it be true. The foundation can hold the wild thing. If you have Libra rising, the full moon is lighting up your 3rd house, which is voice and language, the immediate world, the way your mind moves through daily exchange. It's the house of siblings, neighbors, the delivery of the post every day, that kind of thing. So your local environment and also your local spirits that are embodied and not embodied as well. So your strength, Libra, is your sensitivity to harmony, your gift for seeing all sides, and your care for what is fair and balanced. And that includes aesthetics, right? Aesthetics are a balancing of elements. Your shadow is that Libra rising can soften the wild truth into something palatable. And this can cause you to bend your truth or try to prettify it, or make it polite. And Lilith, she's not interested in polite so much. She's more interested in what is alive and what animates you. So the moon says to you, Libra, there is something true that wants to be spoken through you, and the wild voice in you already knows exactly what it is. It's restless. You do not have to make it graceful for it to be worthy of saying. Sometimes the kindest thing is also the most direct. Let the truth come out at its own full size. If you have Scorpio rising, the full moon lights up your second house, and this is your resources, your talents, what has worth to you and value. It's your finances, what you have and what you believe you deserve as well. And so your strength, Scorpio, is your willingness to immerse yourself in the truth of things and in the darkness and the mystery and what is we don't know, the intrigue, and your ability to understand power and depth and the way that you go beyond what is superficial. And the shadow, and there's always a shadow, right? And that's where the wealth is that sometimes you can get really involved with the shadow work, and you can attach worth to what is earned through intensity and struggle and investigating and surviving, and the wild knowing that you're valuable simply because you're alive can feel too easy, somewhat suspicious, right? And Lilith is here. She's saying that your worth was never something you had to earn. It's inherent. Is a baby, would you ask a baby, like, what do you bring to the table? Like, what are you worth? No, we know the baby is inherently worthy of love. And that's been true about you for your whole life timeline. So the moon has a message for you about that. The wild in you knows what you are worth. And it's not the number you have been keeping. Your value is not the sum of what you've survived. It's older than that. It's the raw fact of your being alive, untamed and irreducible. Let yourself feel worth that you did not have to bleed for. If you have Sagittarius rising, this full moon is all about you. It's your presentation, it's your presence in the world, and Lilith is right there with this moon right out front, changing the way that you interface with your environment and with the people around you. So, Sag, your strength is your honesty and your reach toward meaning, and your refusal to live a small life or one that's false, and that's not expansive, right? Your ability to move outside of your comfort zone and explore and adventure. The shadow is that Sag rising can be very oriented toward the next horizon, the next truth, the next expansion, and the wild knowing already alive in your own body right now can get overlooked in favor of the one that's ahead of you. The moon says to you that you don't have to travel necessarily to find the wildness that's already alive in you, the Lilithian feral fire that is already lit. Stop aiming for a breath and feel what is already true. The aliveness is not necessarily out ahead of you. It's already unfolding in your very presence. If you have Capricorn rising, the full moon lights up your 12th house. And this is the unconscious, the hidden, what's backstage, solitude, what works in you beneath the surface of waking life. So when you wake up in the middle of the night and you've had a dream, that's your 12th house. And so for you, Capricorn, your strength is your capacity for the long view, for discipline, for building things step by step, and to build what has lasting legacy. And the shadow is that you can keep the wild, untamed inner life locked in the basement because it doesn't seem useful, like if it doesn't produce something. But yet Capricorn is the symbol of the forest, the deep forest under the full moon at night. It's the midnight forest. So there is a wildness inherent in Capricorn energy. It's associated with the green man and this very deep earthiness. Lilith has an assignment for you, which is to give yourself one stretch of unstructured time that is allowed to produce nothing. So the moon also has a message for you. Something wild is awake. The part of you that does not answer to the plan, that builds nothing, that simply is. It's not a waste. The dreams are real. It's the most alive thing you carry. Let it have unstructured dark to move in. The soul doesn't exist to be useful. If you have Aquarius Rising, the full moon lights up your 11th house, and this is a house that you're quite comfortable in. It's community, it's the people who share your frequency and your vision, the collective that you're a part of that has the same sort of ideology. Your strength is in your originality, your uniqueness, right? So your capacity to envision what doesn't yet exist. And your orientation, toward the whole, toward this vision that has to do, again, with the collective. Now, the shadow for Aquarius is that the idea of the collective, you can sort of belong to that while keeping the wild and the more personal and embodied self at a cool distance, present for the vision, but absent from the messy intimacy of actual emotional belonging. So Lilith in this house wants you to show up completely in your full presence, not observing it or making it serve a greater good of some kind. So connecting to your personal heart. And the moon has a message for you. The wild thing in you belongs somewhere tonight, not as an idea, not as the one observing from above, but as a creature among creatures. Your untamed self is the gift, and all its non-rational, non-logical magic, not the polished contribution to the cause. Let your people see how the soft animal of you loves what it loves. That is what real belonging is made of. If you have Pisces Rising, the full moon lights up your 10th house, which is vocation, public life, the shape your purpose takes in the world, and it's the most visible point in your chart. So if you were a tree, the 10th house is kind of the canopy of the tree that everyone can see from a distance. And your strength is your sensitivity, your imagination, your attunement to the collective unconscious, what's going on at the bottom of the sea, so to speak. You're deeply connected to the mysteries that are in the world of dream and the creative imagination. And your shadow, though, and we all have a shadow, it's where the wealth is. Pisces can let the public self become sort of an accommodating surface that absorbs what others want you to be. And the wild truth of what you are here to do can get dissolved into other people's expectations because you're very sensitive to that. And there's that Piscean wish to merge and to be sensitive to other people's feelings. But Lilith at the top of your chart, she doesn't want to be diluted. She wants to be known. And the moon has a message for you. The wildness is present and emerging at the very top of your chart tonight, in a place that is meant to be visible. And I'm asking you to let your purpose be untamed, unmistakably yours. You don't always have to dissolve into what the world wants you to be. The truest work comes from the part of you that is the shape of your soul. Let your soul be seen. If you would like a personal, detailed reading of your own chart, use the code Fairy Tree and you'll get a 22% discount on any reading you choose. And it's good through midnight on the 31st. Take care, my wild friends, and happy full moon.